All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So the second preseason game for the New York Jets just wrapped up. They defeated the Carolina Panthers, which is positive, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It wasn't the most exciting game out there. There were tons of mistakes on both sides, whether it was, poor decisions from quarterback play, defensive linemen just blowing right by offensive linemen, penalties on both sides, bad throws. It was definitely a sloppy game. But with that said, that doesn't mean that there weren't any positives, right? I think there were actually a handful of positives that we can pull away from this Jets game, despite it not really being the most, entertaining might not be the best word, but I guess we can go back to using the word exciting, right? Compared to the Commanders game, the Jets just flat out dominated, offensively, defensively. But in this game, you kind of felt like it was more 50-50, right? At times, the ball was bouncing in Carolina's favor. At times, it was bouncing in the Jets' favor. Both teams, I felt like, were really physical, especially Carolina. But let's talk about really the first positive here. I felt like it was the tackling. In the first half, I only counted one missed tackle, or, a tackle where the ball carrier for the Carolina Panthers exceeded yards, right? Got yards after contact. Every other play in that first half, again, I counted, the New York Jets brought them down on first contact, which is huge, right? Because we're talking literally backups all across the roster here outside of Will McDonald and Michael Clemens as we stand right now with the whole Hassan Reddick situation. But to have our depth guys not miss tackles, to have these guys not getting, shook in open field or getting caught in quicksand or just getting trucked over, flat out, is positive, right? Because in the event that CJ Mosley gets hurt, in the event that, somebody on the defensive line, Quinnen Williams, has to miss a month, we need to have confidence in these guys to step up and make tackles in open field. It's such a good indicator on whether or not a player is, first team ready, or at least prepared enough to be a substitute, right? A consistent substitute. If you are constantly getting trucked over, or guys are putting moves on you, or you don't have the speed or acceleration to, catch up to guys, and I'm not talking about, catching a wide receiver blazing down the sidelines. No, I'm talking about an inside handoff, running back makes a cut. If you don't have the speed to recover, it's going to be a long day. So I felt like overall, the Jets' defense was solid. They were rock solid. The linebacking core was fantastic, right? Guavon, Surratt, Barnes, freaking dominant. If I'm not mistaken, Barnes led the team in tackles. I think it was around 7, 8. I mean, he at times just looked like he was shot out of a cannon, right? Just right through the middle, boom, blow up a play. Real acceleration there. Plays with a lot of speed, a lot of agility, right? Which I really like. But at the same time, that power and strength isn't being forfeited, right? As far as, potentially a long-term option at the outside linebacker position. I think it was massive day for him. Again, in a day where there was a lot of mistakes overall on both sides of the football with both teams. These are those games where coaches are going to have to look back on and say, okay, who stood out? Who actually had a good game? Who rose above the rest? And I felt like Zach Barnes was absolutely terrific. But, I mean, literally every linebacker I felt like played fast, played efficient. They were always around the football. They came up and stuffed the run, which was huge. Again, linebackers, awesome. I think another player that stood out was Isaiah Davis, right? Got a big workload early on, then was ultimately substituted for Braylon Allen. And Allen, I would say, just basing it off of preseason reps, real preseason game action, Isaiah Davis was more impressive today, and Braylon Allen was more impressive against Washington. Will that change anything? No. As far as the depth chart is concerned, I don't think so. I think all three backs, Brees included, is going to be... I think it's set in stone. I think all three backs are going to contribute, and they have their roles cut out for them. But, man, Isaiah Davis, he kind of reminds me a little bit of those Bill Belichick types of players from years ago, where they're just these do-it-all running backs, right? They can run inside, they can get to the outside, they can catch a pitch and take it the distance, they can catch passes, little screens and little just dump-offs out of the backfield, they can block. They are powerful. They're not afraid to put their shoulder down, but at the same time, they have a lot of burst. I mean, Isaiah Davis is freaking returning punts too. And also think about this as well. No Xavier Gibson. Who was the starting punt returner for the team? It was Isaiah Davis. I thought it was going to be Malachi Corley, but it's Isaiah Davis back there. So again, he just kind of seems like that gadgety type of gadgety in a good way type of offensive weapon that you could just utilize in so many different areas, right? If he's like literally lining up at the formation, if you're a defensive coordinator, you have no idea what's going to happen, right? Could they go inside? Could they go outside? Could they throw it to him? Could he block and then pop outside for, a little slip screen? There's just so many different avenues to get Isaiah Davis the football, get him to hurt a defense, which is super, super encouraging because at the end of the day, he was a mid to late round pick here. Awesome, right? Flat out awesome. I think another massive positive, right? A great day was Cordington returning kicks and punts. I mean, he had that massive kickoff return. I think it was for 60 plus. Super exciting. And then he had 2 punt returns where I think he eclipsed over 40 yards. Cordington had a day, right? And really, special teams overall, I felt like looked pretty solid. Coverage on punts, coverage on kicks. I thought that looked really, really good. Even Cyber, kicking, with field goals and whatnot. I thought he looked great. Morstead had a couple of solid punts. But let's talk about the negatives here, right? So the first thing that I don't want to get into, but we have to acknowledge it here as Jets fans, the penalties, right? And look, it's preseason, right? Of course, this is why preseason is a thing, right? To work out these kinks, to shake off the rust. But we saw 7 penalties. Again, I think it's 7 penalties today. We saw a lot of penalties last week. We saw a lot of penalties riddled throughout the course of last season. We've seen penalties since Robert Saleh has taken over. Drive-killing penalties, right? Big play on first down, holding. The team holds them on the defense holds the opposing offense on a 3rd down and 8, late hit, automatic first down, unnecessary roughness, defensive holding, stuff like that, where it's just like, it's just drive killers. You never want to see penalties, but, at the same time, it's the NFL, penalties happen. So, you just try to do your best to keep those to a minimum. I just don't want this trend to continue, right? That's the last thing, the freaking last thing, maybe right next to injuries that the Jets need right now, is us beating, if we go toe-to-toe with San Francisco on Monday night, toe-to-toe with whoever, Tennessee, and ultimately the opposition is pulling away because we are flagged 7-8 times and give up 50 free yards to, the opponents here. That cannot fly. It just simply cannot fly. So penalties, I think that's something that the Jets coaching staff has really got to look into. They have established some different practice habits, which is positive, but right now it just it doesn't really seem like it's helping on the field so much. And again, we aren't seeing the starters here. It's primarily backups, but still the flags are a mainstay. And anytime the Jets line up, I think another big negative today was the quarterback play, and yes, they were getting rushed. I thought Carolina's defensive line at times looked really, really solid, really stout on getting in the backfield. But Martinez really struggled. It kind of looked reminiscent of the Nebraska days, that early on with the Huskers, where it's poor decision, ball batted at the line, errant throw, interception, right? Just it's not functioning well, and it's tough, right? Because Martinez looked great last week against Washington. Peasley looked really good against Washington. I don't want to say both guys took a step backwards. I don't think they got worse as players, but I think if they can take this game as a learning experience and try to build upon it in this week 3 game against the New York Giants, which is going to be huge, of course, back at home. Massive battle for this quarterback 3 position. I will say this, though, with both quarterbacks, I think they both did a pretty decent job at when the pocket collapsed. At times, they were able to keep their eyes down the field and slide out of it and extend the play, whether it's pick up a 2, whether it's just to throw the ball away, whether it's to make a play down the field. Martinez only had that one play where he kind of escaped and made something happen, but from top to bottom, I felt like the quarterback play was just not that great. And to be fair, the game plan going in, there's really not a real one. But man, like, why are we opening it up down the field? Like, we just, so many screens, so much little dump offs, quick, easy stuff. I mean, that was the case for Peasley last week, but this is preseason. Let it loose. I mean, these guys are battling for that quarterback 3 job. The chances of the Jets keeping 4 quarterbacks, not including Jordan Travis on the roster, it's really slim. So let these guys uncork them down the field. Show off their arm strength, as opposed to, I want to say, like 85% of the time it's just small little underneath patterns and routes. Everything is within 10 to 15 yards of the line of scrimmage. Let these guys sling it down the field. But that's going to do it for me, though. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Massive week here, right? Joint practice against the Giants, game against the Giants this weekend, and then regular season is here. Man, I cannot wait. So anyway, thanks so much, and as always, go Jets.